we're going to cover IPM. It means Integrated Pest Management. So there are now, IPM was not the thing when in the 70s. Now they figured out that you could come up with a plan that monitored the risk to people, so you weren't like in the days when kids would run after DTT because that was a healthy thing to do. The trucks would be spraying and the kids were running barefoot through it. I mean, that's what 50s were. I mean, it just was. And so then they realized that the problems it created from doing that, and not only just spraying the environment, it hurt people because, you know, you're getting exposed to DDT, you're getting exposed to chloridane, which were really, they're organophosphates, and they were pretty nasty stuff, a lot of cancers. And so those things have been pulled from the shelves. The heavy-duty pesticides that we used to have in the 70s aren't there. They're shorter term, less risk to people, but the big problem is then how can you minimize the risk to the people and the environment. So IPM was developed to manage all kind of pests everywhere in urban, agricultural, and natural. So schools will have IPM programs so that they aren't using the most toxic way, they're using the least toxic way. Agriculture now in California has bands of flowers that you see because then the beneficial insects can be there and they're using them to fight again in their crops. It's very pretty. People think, wow, they're beautifying our state, but it's actually to save them money on spraying on pesticides. So it's really cool. So IPM focused on long-term prevention and the damage in managing it. The thing was, if you can sanitize, like say a bug lays its eggs in the ground, and then you clean up, or you take plants with the pests and the eggs and you throw them in a black garbage or a plastic clear garbage bag and seal it, you've solved the problems. You've sanitized it away. If you don't bring in a buggy or a diseased plant, you've caused the problem not to even happen. So looking at the most long-term way you can possibly stop it is the first level, and we have a little triangle here that you have in your sheets where the biggest bottom part is sanitation in IPM. Then the next level becomes physical or mechanical. If you can hand-pick snails, which isn't put a glove on, some way of mechanically kills the pest directly or blocks them out or makes the environment unsuitable. So if you have a trap for your rodent, that's using mechanical means. The bottom line is the cultural is if you're putting a lot of fertilizer on your roses, you're going to get aphids. So, and the weeds can make funguses because it keeps dampness. So you're changing the irrigation, you're changing to reduce pest problems. Too much water would cause disease and weeds. So you work the system and the environment to dampen weeds and pests. So we'll go back through this again. There's prevention, which is I call sanitation. And then I usually go cultural. And that's you change your environment to reduce the pest reproduction, dispersal, and survival. Then you do mechanical and then biological. We just did the natural enemies and predators and pathogens and competitors. And the thing is now, excitingly, about the 60s, they came up with finding diseases. So they found BT, which is Bacillus thuringiensis, actually killed caterpillars. It didn't kill honeybees, it didn't kill anything. And they could put it on plants. It has a very short life, maybe a couple days. But then if you get your caterpillars small, they actually die from it. They get their stomach gets ulcers and they die. They stop feeding right away, but they don't die right away. But they do die. So there's also things that so several ones for Coddling Moth now and others. So they're coming and they're using that because it is very specific. As we go up, they're used less, but they're specific and they're less toxic to the environment. The very top is chemical, and the reason chemical is not as popular now is that once you've killed off the beneficials and everything else, then you're strapped into a system of using it. So it really is the shortest, least one you want to do, and if you can find a long-term solution so you're not having to buy sprays, it's the better solution. It's less toxic. And chemical, it's used when you need it. It's used in tangent with the long term. It minimizes the harm to people when you pick one, and the non-target organisms. So there's something called carbaryl 7. It kills caterpillars. That used to be the go-to, and it's still on the shelf, but it kills honeybees really bad. So you spray it on your flowers for your petunias to get rid of caterpillars, the tobacco worm that will eat your flowers. You'll find petunias with chunks out of them. It has worms. But what would you do? Now you've heard about BT. You have a choice. You have 7. You're going to do an IPM program. You're going to write one up. Which one are you going to pick? Are you going to pick the one that might kill a honeybee? Or are you going to pick one like BT that will actually get rid of them but not hurt the environment? So IPM allows you those choices. So I'm now going to give you the 6 components, the 6 principles to make your own plant. And you can do this because we have actually an incredible, under the UC system, where you can actually look up the pest, and they actually have quick tips, and they have their own IPM program there. And so you don't have to be able to research hours and hours to get this IPM program. Instant knowledge, instant ability. Really exciting. So first thing is you have to know what pest it is. I mean, is it a good bug? Is it a bad bug? And then okay, it's an aphid, and you're looking at it. Now aphids are born pregnant. What's the likelihood of this taking over and becoming a problem? Yep, high. So now we say, okay, we're going to have to do something. What are we going to do? So now you've made that decision, and you've tried to figure a way to prevent the problem before you start. So you say, is there a way that I could not had the aphids? Well, what if I'd had some beneficial flowers and I already had the beneficials here, and they actually came, and then suddenly I don't have, and I started to see the wasps taking out the aphids. I don't have to do anything. So if I could come up with a way to stop it before it begins, that's in the plan. So now we're going to use all this chart, and we're going to come up with a plan. Then you work the plan, and you say, I worked it, did it work? So now we're going to go to the IPM program, and I'm going to show you how to use it and how to make it work.